Oh, hey, we're back.
We made it.
Yay, we did. We did make it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another great podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Robert Bain. With me, as always,
I'm Whitney Cowell.
Whitney, how the heck are you?
I'm great. My birthday was yesterday.
It was birthday.
Woo! I love my 30s. I'm having fun. I've got some personal things I'm announcing closer, to the end of the year. So I'm having a great time. How are you?
You know what? Life is good. We talked in the green room. Definitely been exciting the last few days. Definitely been exciting, but you know what? It's so good to be me. It always is. And so I always have to be on the right side of the ground and the right side of the bars. But biggest thing, happy birthday. You are over 29.
Yes, by a few years.
Yes. So very exciting. I remember my 30s too. They were cool. Definitely enjoyed those. But you made a post on LinkedIn, and I want to steal any of your thunder, but you talked about some really, really cool stuff. And all I want to do is give folks a preview. I am excited for, as you said in our text conversation, the next steps. I'm really excited for that.
Thank you. I'm excited too. It's something, so I've had, these passion projects, and one was starting a podcast, and that was like in 2021, and I checked it out. It took me like 3 years to do that. And this was kind of the more like vulnerable piece that I was really aiming for. And I fell back on what felt safe, and I'm ready to just kind of let that freak flag fly.
Hey. No, that's awesome. That's I'm excited for you, my friend. I think I've actually talked about this a lot I talk about my therapist a lot, but also just with people in general, is the more and more you can be authentic and let yourself be out there, maybe in a different volume. I think there's definitely a difference with me at a powerlifting meet than like a conference as far as volume, but I'm still the same person, right? And I think, in your case, the more you can be open and authentic, and certainly there's going to be some tough conversations that you have and tough, interviews, because it's going to be stuff that I think pulls on people's heartstrings. And that's important, though, because people need that.
Right. It's ideally to create safety. That's
yes.
The goal of it all, is to let people know they're not alone. And I will tell you, my inbox has blown up since yesterday.
Awesome.
So a lot of people have found a place of gratitude and somebody kind of voicing a little bit more about their journey. And so I'm excited to do that and let more people know that they're not alone.
Absolutely. I think that's so important to know that thing. Definitely, if you're going through stuff, you can always feel like you're alone. There's no one else that has my problem. Please believe that someone does.
Oh, don't we wish we were special, and then we find out we're not?
Well, it's just like the conversation we had. All of us big, strong guys think we're special because we lift heavy circles. We're really not. Anyway, so that's what's going on for the most part. But also, we got big stuff that has just happened and is going to happen. You were just at TMSA.
I was.
Talk to us about it.
It was so fun. I'm updating my name. It was fun. The Executive Summit is very different than the annual conference. And of course, we had Jen from TMSA on a couple of weeks ago to kind of talk a little bit about like what the organization is, but specifically the Executive Summit is geared towards the executives in the supply chain. So it's a much smaller crowd. The networking takes up the majority of the time frame. I will say a lot of people walk away from there with new business that's landed, with new connections that they then find at other conferences. And that's a really easy introduction. So if you're looking for a place to kind of firm up your reputation and have a little bit more word of mouth that you can stand on when you're approaching the market, it's a great opportunity to do that. My favorite part every year with that specific conference is the shipper panel. And they just kind of tear apart everything that sales and marketing groups do right and do wrong. And so that's where most of my notes come from is, especially when they're conflicting messages from two different shippers, knowing that like, you're just not going to win everybody, but it's really important to know how you're targeting your potential prospects if you're in the service industry and manufacturers are your target audience.
Right. No, that's super cool. And then you guys did a meetup, correct?
We tried to have a coffee meetup. hurricanes delayed and or prevented a lot of people from showing up.
Fair.
So it was a little bit of a smaller gathering. However, we will have one. We'll just go ahead and put the date out there. November 18th in Chattanooga, different coffee shop this time. And Jenny Malafrina will be there as well.
Oh, fantastic. And is that going to be in the lead up to Freight Waves, correct?
Yeah. So a lot of people are traveling, but it was actually requested. There were so many people that couldn't make it to the first coffee chat that they asked for a second one. And so this is me showing up and doing just that.
That's awesome. I do wish I could be at Freight Waves and be down there for all those things. It's going to be great, but unfortunately.
We'll see where Manifest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. You always see me Manifest. And that I do want to talk about that really quick.
Okay, let's do it.
So we, Freight Movement, we've got an awesome partnership with Manifest. We are super, super excited for that. I'm actually going to throw it up here in front of us. You can register and save right now. Save those dates, February 10th to the 12th. It's Super Bowl week and the run up to it. So Vegas is jumping off during that week. So highly recommend people go there for all the different things that go on. But so Manifest has announced all the speakers for this year's event. And your boy was listed on there.
Woo!
And I'm not going to lie, it was I showed my family, it was like a life PR because this is my favorite conference of the year. I just love how it jumps off everything with the energy, just everything they do. They top themselves every single year with the speakers, with the education that comes through, the after parties off the chain. But to be able to go from, I attended the first one and just thought, this is really cool. And I feel something very special about this to now in, chapter 4, I'm going to be one of the people with a mic in my hand, and which is always dangerous, but I'm so excited and beyond humbled and honored to be up there. So I was so stoked for that. So I had to make sure I mentioned that.
Yeah. Congratulations to you. I mean, that is such a powerful, start to finish, kind of an evolution of your experience with Manifest. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people think, well, you have to be in the supply chain for this amount of time or at this company to be considered a speaker or know these certain things. And at the end of the day, if you're specialized in what you do and you're willing to be vocal about it, people will notice. And you went and supported the organization. And in just 4 years now, you're going to be standing on stage. And I love that they're giving you a mic. They knew what they were getting into.
Thank you. It's exciting. And like I said, can't wait for it. It's Vegas. It's my favorite town. So all the things that I love are there.
If you want to see Bain's inner child just absolutely light up.
Oh, yeah. You see me at a blackjack table or you see me, out there on the strip. I'm very, very, very excited. So So in that same vein, though, of giving me a mic and people not know what's going to happen, Broker Carrier Summit coming up next week as of this recording and as of when we'll drop this in a couple of days. So the 23rd through the 25th of October in Fort Worth, Texas. Still time to register. Now, are you going to be attending or no?
I will not be attending. I think Jenny might be, but I'm not.
I think Jenny is.
Yeah.
I think Jenny is. I know there's a couple other conferences going on at the same time, but no, we're excited. The attendee list continues to grow. We've actually got a counter going on right now of carriers versus brokers. Right now, the carriers are in the lead, which we're going to come up with something to for as far as bragging rights for that. I don't know if it's a trophy or something, but I know we're really excited about that. We're going to have close to 500 people there, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So quick question. If people have questions about Broker Carrier Summit, who do they need to contact?
They can contact any of us on the board. One of the best things to do is jump on the Broker Carrier Summit website. That's brokercarriersummit.com. And you can just go to the info tab there and you can reach out. You can reach out to me, Robert Bain on LinkedIn. You also have Dan Lindsay, Dan at brokercarriersummit.com. Any of those are great resources to reach out and get more information. Again, use code GLCS, save a little dough. And carriers and drivers specifically, we have specific pricing for you. Because again, we understand that it is very different for a carrier to shut down their truck to come and get the education or create these relationships that they do want, but there obviously is a cost to that. So we're doing what we can to mitigate that and make it as advantageous as possible for them.
Right. And also shout out to Broker Carrier Summit for recognizing that.
I think that was some of the feedback we got from attendees. Again, people wanted to be there. We've also partnered with Truck Parking Club, so it's free truck parking. So that's huge. I know it's a whole nother conversation in the industry that I think we'll have at some point, but so free truck parking, and again, just very, very excited for next week in Fort Worth. So And then we'll start planning for Indianapolis in the spring. So anyway, we got some headlines to go through.
Yeah.
So let's dive into it. The port strike lasted all of 3 days.
We were a little off on our time frames there.
We were, but all of us did say though that it would not last more than 2 weeks.
Right.
And I think that a lot of folks felt that way from the jump. What was interesting though is how initially vocal the union leader, I'm spacing on his name right now, was until all of his personal business got put in the streets, because then he got real quiet real fast.
It happens like that sometimes, you know.
It do be that way. It do be that way. But it is not over yet. I want to be very clear is that it is extended as far as the workage, but the strike is not over. So there's an extension on the current contract through January 15th, 2025. So that gets past the election. That is before the inauguration. Sounds like the sides have now come to the table. Yeah. But really, since the announcement of the extension, silence.
It's been completely radio silent. I think honestly, the election, like that, it is not a coincidence that it's directly in between the space of the election and inauguration.
100%.
I give it another, it's October 16th month before there is volume turned back up in some direction. I think there's movement in the shadows right now of what people are planning, which to be expected. I'm not surprised that at this time, because there is an extension, that it's like, great, we have time. We're going to go back. We're going to plan. And then when something goes one way or the other, we have statements to make.
I do think there is a wait and see for election day from both sides. That will decide how they play their hand. Yep,
absolutely it will.
Which, shameless plug, this does not represent GLCS, Freight Movement, Rago Marketing, anything like that. This is strictly Robert Bain. Get out and vote. Go vote. I don't care who you vote for. Go vote.
Right.
It is man, woman, black, white, neither or everything. I don't care. Go vote.
And vote locally.
Yes,
you don't have to wait until a presidential election to vote. Did you know that if you're a regular voter, there's something for you pretty much every year?
Yep. Every year. But this one, I'm never going to say this is the most important election ever, because the next one always is. But absolutely, it is important. Go vote. Make your voice heard. Also, if I hear you complain about the current state of the country and I hear you didn't vote, I might smack you, because you have no reason to complain.
And he's the strongest man in logistics. It will leave a handprint.
It will. And they're big hands too. They're not small. Anyway, shameless plug there. Please go vote. Go do that. That's your civic duty. And something that a lot of people in this world do not get the opportunity to do.
Right.
Yep. Moving on. No more politics. We'll keep it very light. We had the inaugural Freight Fraud Awareness Day was yesterday, which I thought was interesting. I didn't hear any fanfare, and all of a sudden an article dropped on FreightWaves. Oh, hey, it's Freight Fraud Awareness Day today. Is this topic really something we need an awareness day of? Because we talk about it almost weekly in the space.
I mean, I think that's why the day was created, right? I think it's just been such a hot topic for so long, and technology has come so far that, there are so many tech companies that are presenting solutions right now. And just for the sake of fairness, I'm not going to list them off. However, if somebody wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to give the ones that I would recommend. I think it was a little odd that there was no buildup. It was a hard launch of a holiday, if I've ever.
Yeah. It really just here's the drop. And
so I'm a little surprised that there wasn't some sort of buildup, because I feel like if there was, there could have been partnerships, there could have been articles written, sponsorship, just from the organization that made the article. I'm surprised that wasn't capitalized. I don't know if that's the right way to look. The business person in me thinks there was an opportunity to capitalize on that. And also I feel like other companies who have these products and these solutions and have spent a lot of resources to combat freight fraud and theft, probably would have loved to be a little bit more vocal about that as well. There was an event that just happened last week with a company, and the whole thing, it was around NASCAR, but the whole thing was people coming up and speaking about freight fraud.
Right. And so I think it's an important thing. And I mean, we have TIA Tech Innovations is going on right now, so it would have been great to kind of talk about that. And yet, you mentioned some of the tech companies that are trying to combat that. I did want to touch on it real quick. We don't necessarily have to name the names, but you see a lot of different companies right now are looking at as many different angles as they can, from ID verification to looking at inspections, looking at histories across the MC and across the different ways that a business may identify themselves.
Right.
So one of the questions is always, is there more freight fraud and theft going on, or are we just more aware of it now?
Yes.
I do think there's more, but I think now we are just more hyper aware. It very much is in the same vein of like, do we have more mental health issues now versus before, and now, or are we more aware of it now? And the answer, you're right. The answer is yes.
Yeah, I mean, technology allows us to do so. And some of the mental health issues, that, just to use that as an example, well, yeah, we have so much more access now to understand like what it is for people to share their stories. Freight fraud, it's now people are sharing their stories a little bit more because of the technology. They're able to have like concrete data instead of just like screaming into the void of this thing is happening in my business. Now they have a platform with a microphone to talk about that. And so, of course, tech companies are evolving quickly to keep up with that. And I have to say that's why like visibility and transparency have been such buzzwords for the last 5 years in the industry.
Yep. And I think you hit a crucial piece there, because visibility moves very much from I need to know where my freight is to I need to know who my freight's with.
Right.
And so I think that's a big thing that I don't know if everybody's necessarily talked about. So as we were kind of getting ready for the show, before the green room, one of the things that we should talk about too is also who's at risk when it comes to freight fraud. There are some obvious ones. There's carriers, brokers, shippers, but it expands out, because then you've got the warehousing and 3PL logistics space. You've got the motoring public is a huge risk factor there, because as folks get more and more daring with especially with theft, that potentially creates situations of vehicles not operating properly, not operating safely, or at safe speeds, again, depending on what the product is that's in there. And so now you also have the motoring public who's at risk. And so it really behooves a lot of different institutions to be aware of this type of stuff and how it impacts different groups.
Right. And I think, to your point, like, people hear, the big three: the carrier, the broker, and then the shipper. And each of those have so many moving components to them, specifically on
literally
the manufacturing side. Yeah, there's so many departments, so many people that are impacted by, one, like if it's just a full truckload and that gets hijacked, the bad case scenario, actually surprisingly common, more common than I think people realize. Like, if that happens, that is a major hit that ripples really far back. And I feel like we see, and like common sense says, okay, we see that, but we're now starting to see all the way back. And that I think is where like the visibility and transparency, people are trying, like you said, who's it with? Okay, now from an organizational standpoint, what does this mean? How do we pivot quickly? How do we correct? How do we mitigate moving forward? And that is where I think like having the right freight tech, the right stack is really important. And those like being true investment pieces and not just like a nice to have has really taken the spotlight, I would say, within the last like 3 to 4 years.
Absolutely. And I think one thing to call out too is this is something I learned as I worked with a lot of large shippers. They build into their budgets for shrinkage along the supply chain,
Right.
And some of that is going to happen through damage. We get that, but they're allotting for more and more theft and loads and product going missing. Well, they're not taking the hit to their bottom line. They just pass that savings on to us, the consumer. And so the more, and this is something I think will be a huge conversation over the next 2 to 3 years on the manufacturing and shipping side, is how do we reduce our tolerance for that, which inherently will then reduce the amount of theft and fraud we're seeing. And I don't have the silver bullet. I don't have the answer for that, because the more you tolerate, the more it's going to happen.
Right.
It's like raising kids.
That's the basics of having boundaries.
Right. Exactly.
Businesses.
But let's realize we talked about with using the mental health as an example. So few people are willing to even set those boundaries and just tolerate whatever. And that's what gets us into certain situations that we would otherwise not be in. So one thing that I do want to hit on before we move on to the next topic, but what can you do if you're concerned about fraud, if there's a situation where you've had a load stolen, or you've had fraud committed against you, or there's a variety of different organizations you can work with. Highly recommend, if nothing else, especially 3PLs, but carriers, you're right in the same boat. You need to be monitoring everything that goes on around your organization. That is your MC, that is your identification. Like, as few people need to have your information about your business as possible. You got the FMCSA, you got your tax guy, a couple of the folks. It's really about it. Because the more and more areas where that information is available, the easier it is for bad guys to get access to it. Mm-hmm. And so that's huge. If you find yourself the victim of this type of stuff, first thing you do is you get with your insurance company. Also, before you have something stolen, get with your insurance company and make sure that you're covered, because your general liability may not.
Yeah, that's a good place to be proactive. Really, as somebody that started in the carrier end, that's a great place to be proactive.
Yep. And you want to ask too about, are there certain product provisions? We had an incident with a client that had a high value load of alcohol stolen. Like, hey, covered under our cargo, but nope, because it was a premium alcohol. It wasn't a mid shelf or low shelf. It was a premium alcohol, and that was not covered. They had a specific provision in their insurance policy that said that. So that's something you want to definitely review. Right. Again, if bad guys want your stuff, they're going to get it, but make it really difficult for them.
I will say, if you're looking for other solutions, you're looking for okay. Mailman's here. If you're looking for, what to do next, a word of caution. We actually did talk about this at the executive summit. If you are going to use AI resources to figure out what is best for your company, be aware that anything you put in about your company to tailor that message then lives in the internet forever, and anybody else can find it. So I feel like some people are like, no, it's great. I get all these tailored things. And it's like, yes, it's tailored because you gave it the information, and it doesn't just hold that near and dear to its heart.
The internet does not keep secrets.
Yeah. So just a word of caution in the age that we're in, it actually makes a little bit more sense to have that one-to-one contact with a real person to discuss what's best for your business than if you're a young something that's trying to start up an organization or, launch your own business and be scrappy about it. That is not a place that I would recommend being scrappy.
No, I completely agree. As I like to explain to my children when they're looking at stuff they put on social media, I'm like, remember, screenshots live forever.
They do. And they live in a lot of inboxes typically.
They do. That's all right. Stay hated. Anyway, last big topic, and this one is going to be big, and we're going to be probably talking about this for a long time, is the hurricanes. We had 2 back-to-back very, very powerful hurricanes hit the southeast. Really, the damage has been extensive.
Yeah.
Just from Hurricane Milton, he swung that red stapler, and he hit pretty hard. Just damage is estimated at $50 billion, and overall loss of business is being estimated up to $160 billion. It's
so substantial. I mean, I think the words that have been used time and time again are catastrophic at this point.
Yep. I know we just, from a personal story, a gym that I'm really good friends with, they're down at Daytona Beach. They were flooded so much they actually had to look at, is the foundation still sound? Can we save the building? And this is not, it's a small business. Whole thing with that, and they've historically hosted some of the biggest, most important meets in the sport. And right now they are looking at can they even maintain the building? They have to tear it down and rebuild. Will their insurance even cover it? Because FEMA has already denied that. FEMA denied their application for aid in 3 hours. It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's tough, and I understand that there's only so many resources to go around, and that'll potentially spark a whole conversation with other people. But there are people that are helping. There are actually a lot of people who are helping and doing incredible things. So I want to specifically call out a good friend of the podcast and of mine, Jeff Dickinson. He immediately mobilized two different, basically strike teams, one in the Northeast and one in the Southeast, to gather donations, medicine, water, food, everything people could think of, because people have lost everything.
Yep.
And started mobilizing that. He had warehouses that he set up around the Northeast to then transport. And he actually had carriers that were transporting the goods free of charge, just doing pro bono and getting it down to forwarding warehouses around the Carolinas, into Florida, Georgia. Really incredible work they were able to set up in less than 72 hours.
Yeah. And I know of an organization that's been using drones to take supplies where like carriers just can't get to, which has been remarkable. I love watching people use technology for the betterment of others. And then, there are a ton of so a lot of the major organizations are partnered with other organizations.
Yep.
But some of the smaller, there are single people that are like organizing with the resources that they have. There are companies across the supply chain and beyond. I mean, I know of like banks that are helping out. I know of like mental health facilities that are banding together to offer like free resources for people, for the PTSD. Like there's so many different types of ways to help. One of the things that I think would be really great is to check out our LinkedIn page and continue dropping names and organizations of people that are banding together for relief efforts, whatever that may look like. So people that are looking to help, organizations that are looking to find a partnership or a way to donate, who to reach out to.
Definitely. Do want to give a special shout out to Frank Gambino and Jay Delaney, because they helped save Jenny Valparina when her birthday cruise got cut short. Would much rather her be on land than on the water during that time, obviously. So, but being in Florida in the middle of a hurricane, amazingly, there were no cars, there was no flights. I actually have a friend who her car got damaged enough that she had to put it into a shop for a couple of days. There is not a single rental car in Orlando from now until the 25th.
Yep.
And it's so again, you look at how this is all being impacted. You have rental companies that had one-way rentals that got out of Florida, and now they're having to contract auto haulers to bring vehicles back in mass to Florida.
Yep. So there's another way to help, if you're in that industry and nobody's contacted you yet, that it's very specific type of trailer. We're in need of assistance in helping more people evacuate and helping people go back, so that they can. And then there's like the volunteers, right, that are kind of coming in droves and things that are needed once you get there. So having a vehicle, you don't realize how important it is until you are stranded without one, and a lot of things are on fire around you.
Yes, on fire, underwater, or both. Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, to be fair, it was both. He saw quite a bit of it. So, but glad to see that that has passed, and folks trying to rebuild, and we wish everyone the best.
Yeah.
You have to call it out, because it's certainly something that people look at. You look at a lot of homes, a lot of buildings were destroyed. Is this an injection of the need for building materials and stuff to haul that the industry needs? It's a tragedy. Obviously, it's horrible what has gone on, but will this be a net positive for the industry? It's not going to be negative.
Yeah.
It will be certainly challenging, though, because you have I-40 may not be open until next year. That's one of the main thoroughfares for the Carolinas. And so you do have a lot of traffic patterns are going to change, but ultimately I think this will help quite a few folks as they recover.
Yeah. And as somebody who was just in Asheville, driving through it, it's, and only caught a glimpse, the devastation is huge. And I know it's not just there, right? Like there is a path of destruction. So the Southeast, needs help, but is already seeing so much of it. So that's what we're here to do, right? Share the good news of what's happening in the supply chain. There are tons of organizations that are already doing what they can. If you haven't jumped on board to help out, I would highly recommend doing that as just a way to give back to your industry and to love on, others that really need it right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that, we're coming up on time here. Anything else you want to add, Whitney?
Well, we talked about our coffee chat that's in November. So
we did.
I will be posting that soon. Please join me here in Chattanooga. By request, we're doing it again. And yeah, like Bain said, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you might see some new content coming out soon.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited for you. In that same vein as the meetup for coffee, we're also gonna be doing a big event down in conjunction with Freight Waves. Right here, Trucker Bar, Chattanooga, Freight Alley. You can see huge event sponsored by V53. A lot of partners there, so we're very excited to be a part of that. Again, more details to come. You'll see quite a few of the freight moving folks there. So just won't see this big, beautiful beard running around anywhere soon. So outside of that, Kids All Out Manifest here in January. Again, I'll throw that back up. Register now, you can save a little dough. I believe we've actually got a partnership page. We'll throw that up there in the comments as well. Or our sponsor code is on there. You can save a couple dollars. So we'll be back in a couple weeks. But with that, Whitney, if nothing else.
Nope, that's it.
All right. It's been another Freight Podcast.
See ya.